Morning, everyone. Please follow me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today, asking you to watch over this meeting of our commissioners, be with all our employees and all the citizens of this county as they go about their duties through the week. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Linn County Commission to order. Approval of minutes from last week's meeting. I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Make a motion, we approve the claims in the amount of $220,067.20.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the claims in the amount of $220,000, 67 cents. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
We've got one tax abatement.
So the total is the 240.28 at the bottom.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Page.
So this is the change order 2022-9-926 in the amount of $240.28. I'll move that we approve the abatement change order 2022-926.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's all I've got for now.
Okay. AMR?
Good morning, Galen Anderson with American Medical Response. Numbers wise, it's been a little bit slower recently. We did 8 transports in the last 7 days and 36 transports month to date. So kind of slowed down in September. Still have the one full-time paramedic position that we're recruiting for and trying to fill. And then in a couple days here on the 20th, we set up a landing zone safety training with the helicopter, one of the helicopter services, and with the sheriff's office and fire department and other first responder agencies that want to be part of that. And I think that's pretty much all we have going on. Nothing really else to update you on. Anything for me?
Nope.
I don't have anything.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Galen.
week.
Randy, fire?
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Hegwald, Linn County Rural Fire and Emergency Management. I sent out this week's totals. We had 11 incidents, brings our yearly total up to 323. I don't have much other than I'd spoke to Sean after last week's meeting about the house up at the park. I'd spoke to him earlier when they'd put it out for bids to see if anybody was interested in moving it. I was wanting to see if I could get your guys' permission to use that for training before it's tore down. Not very often do we get houses we can actually go in and do some training in. We take our smoke machine up and fill them smoke, let guys crawl through. We can do ventilation, do a lot of work inside, a lot of training time up there. So I was asking if we could have permission to use that prior to being tore down, or even if we could push the tearing of it down back a couple months, give us a lot of time to use that structure since that's on county property. Just kind of get your guys' intake on it. So.
Was that okay? I mean, that's not our property, I guess, but
Well,
we're leased.
we have it leased and it's our building. So
I think it's perfectly acceptable.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. I'll work with Sean as far as dates, but yeah, we'd like to use as much as possible. We do, if we go in and do anything in there, we do have boards that we can, if we break windows or anything, we can board it up when we're not around to keep it secure and stuff. So I'll work with Sean on that and we'll get some training done up there.
I think that would be a good use for it if we're going to just tear it down anyway.
Yeah. So that's all I have unless you guys have anything.
I don't.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. John?
Sean West, Public Works Administrator. This week, we met on Queens Road with Peppercorn Engineering. They are going to get back to us and speak to us a little bit more about a kind of a simplified plan. If you remember the Radcliffe Road project, they believe that we can do the same thing, and they're going to give us a bid to do the engineering and move that roadway over and tell us what projects will need to be completed to simply move the roadway over. But they believe it's going to be simplified for the fact that they believe the land is less the roadway. So the survey and titles and everything to the property are going to be very simplified and can be an agreement between us and wildlife. So I'll bring that back to you at some other point as soon as I get whatever the engineering bid's going to be, but they believe it's possible. It's just what agreement we have between us and wildlife and what projects we split between us. So they're going to give us a list of those projects needing to be done so we could go through and make an agreement with them that would reflect what responsibilities each agency has. I had a sign request for maintenance at Lake Chaparral, requesting any used road signs or any scrap that would be usable for their purposes, and remarking, reflagging those signages for roadways and purposes at their lake. They don't have a number as far as an amount. I'd have to work with them if you agree to it, but it's going to be very similar to what Holiday Lakes has asked us for. They'd have to just use the backers and make their own labels and mark those.
What do you
I
think?
have no problem with the use signs and
Okay. Me neither. That's fine.
Okay. Last week, we spoke about the federal exchange funds. We discussed that it was $96,699.57, and after the state took their portion, it was going to be $87,029.61. The way that we discussed this project or this funding as it comes in is correct, with the exception of, as I researched what we had, we already have the claim to make to the state to draw those funds down. The Parker Road project was what we drew those funds down on last year, and we still have enough money to refile that claim for the second time. So instead of being held at the state, we're going to receive that $87,29.61, and we need to determine where you would like to put that.
So we've already paid for those
paid
that
for
project.
for that project. We're drawing those state funds down on that project to recoup that money.
that was on the blacktop.
Yes,
Parker.
yes. That's what we drew it down on last year, and we resubmitted, and we still have enough funding available from that project to draw down these funds
So we
immediately.
Put these funds where those funds came out of then? Is that what you do or what?
I would suggest that and I'd have to do a little more research, but there is going to be, one of my next line items, the engineering for 1095. I have a bid for that. I believe Jessica sent it over for review, but that's not going to eat up the whole 87, but you could use those funds to pay for that as long as, once we take that in, that federal money back to that project, and we've already recouped it on the other project, I believe we can put it out towards this project and it's not a conflict.
For the signage and stuff on 1095, is that what you're talking about?
The engineering for that signage project and things.
Based on the roadway grant, that was the,
Yes, and the first part of it, we have to pay for the preliminary engineering out of pocket. So I have a bid for that engineering that is the exact of what we were given for an estimate from Peppercorn. And if that's something you want to, I mean, we can pull it out of capital roads. We can put this money back into capital roads and pull it out of there, however you want to do it.
Did we only get the one bid, I guess, for?
Yes, because of the timeline restriction, we have to have this to keep the project on task, and to get that grant money, we have to have it done by the 27th. So we're going to have an engineer for that preliminary by that time, so it fits to do it through our on-call engineering.
I mean, it was a roadway grant, correct? So we'd be using the funds for the same thing.
We would be using funds that we got back,
Right.
that we've already paid out on another project, towards a new project that is
That
grant
we
funded.
started.
So, and I have that engineering contract. You'll see on the last page of that is the schedule the state wants us to keep by the 27th, which is the reason that we're not going out to bid on it as we normally would on some of these projects. But it's impossible to keep that timeline and keep that on task if we don't select an engineer very rapidly. And you'll also see on the last page the estimate for engineering, and that is the exact amount. So there was no increase in from their estimate to their contractual request for that.
So back to the depositing of the funds when they come in, I think between us and then get with Janet and figure out how to get them put in for where we're going to use them, I don't see that as a problem.
Okay. Do we need a motion to approve that bid on the engineering?
I didn't check. Would that be something they'd approve me to sign, or would the chair need
Yeah,
to
they
sign?
need to approve it and either authorize him to sign it or you sign it, whatever you want to do. It needs to be approved on the record. Technically, it could wait till next week if you want to, but
We do have enough time, but it would have to be done by next week.
I'll make a motion that we contract with Peppercorn Engineering and Environmental LLC for the $62,000 for the engineering on 1095 that goes along with our high-risk roads grant.
What was that grant for? How much?
I would have to look at the total
How much?
$352.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Is that something?
They might as well sign it since they didn't authorize you.
Can you get me a copy?
Left that out.
The next thing I handed you was from last week. We discussed 1077. I had Jessica contact Straight Line Striping, who does the striping for our roadways over the last several years, and inquire as to if the product would hold down to that roadway minus the chips on the oil base. I've not yet been able to discuss it with the engineers as far as any other outlines or issues that might come up. But Straight Line Striping has made it clear that if they sprayed it, there was no guarantee on it and no expectation for any materials to stick to that surface.
So nobody stripes chip and seal roads.
It's not typically something you would stripe, but without the chips, it gives a dark color and you would be spraying over oil. And he does not expect that product to stick to that oil surface for very long. The other products that they could use are going to have a similar issue. So if you want me to talk to the engineers, I can, but in my mind, it's a moot point as far as what the engineer would tell us if the person that would be applying it or the company tells us it's not going to stick.
Right.
Okay.
Next thing I have for you, Randy spoke to you about the park house. I will be gone Thursday and Friday of this week and be available by phone on vacation. And I think the only other thing I need is 10 minutes legal, and then I'll come back to you on later issues that are on the agenda. Anything for me?
All right now.
I don't have anything.
Thank you.
Sheriff?
Morning, Commissioners. Kevin Friend, Linn County Sheriff. Just for numbers for the day, I have 60 total inmates in today. I had a typo in my farm ends. I gave you 41 and I have 39. I'd pulled some numbers from last week. I was doing some research and made a mistake there. So we have 39 farm ends. Had 108 911 calls last week, 1,745 jail contacts, total calls for service countywide for law enforcement, county, municipal, fire, and for EMS was 558 calls that were dispatched. 13 civil service papers served, had 1 VIN inspection, had 16 new open cases, 4 closed cases. Our office worked 5 vehicle crashes. SROs had 97 calls for services in the 6 schools. 125 bailiff contacts, folks in the front door. 23 of those were calls for services. We had 10 livestock out complaints, and our current daily income from jail housing is $3,001.50. Any questions for me?
I don't have.
I don't.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Sheriff.
Have a good day.
Jessica?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Hightower. I just wanted to let you know the FBO RFP responses for the airport were due on Friday, and I got none. Danny had said something last week about maybe meeting with the airport committee. I can try to see if they can come and have a workshop with y'all about the airport, maybe give some guidance on what their thoughts are going forward if you'd like that. Or if you guys have any ideas of what you'd rather do, that would be great. But I didn't get any responses.
Think we'll have them come in, meet with us so that we can start moving forward on our next.
Move forward on something. Don't seem like anybody wants it, so I guess we can have them talk to them.
Okay. I can see what I can get set up, see if they'll come in. The Garnett Airport did start this weekend getting fuel out, so hopefully they'll be able to get that done in the next couple of weeks. That's all I have for you today. Okay.
Thank you. Do you have anything, yours?
Well, I've got a couple things that we could talk about. Chris Martin has made arrangements to put some antennas for our radio system on a water tower at, let's see, it's located at 1095 Road and 1850 Road.
Okay.
It's a pretty standard co-location, but they wanted a written agreement, so I have prepared a written agreement here that just spells out what they will do, what we will do, and so forth. It simply says that it'll be an indefinite term, 180-day notice to terminate. That gives us 6 months. If they want us off there, it'll give us 6 months to find another location. That we can mount 2 antennas there. We'll have a little enclosure at the bottom of the tower where we keep our equipment that's tied to the antenna. In exchange for that, we will provide them internet service through our system out there. And we will also allow them access to the security cameras that we'll be putting up out there if they need that access. They will be providing us electricity to run our system. So if that's acceptable to you, just need a motion to approve this water tower co-location agreement. And if you want to, I think they're anxious to move forward, but I didn't make extra copies. So.
Radio communication.
I'm sorry?
Radio communication.
Yeah, it's part of our radio. It's going to give us a little stronger radio signal out in that area. And you know, of course, in their sheriff's cars, they use a data system, and so it's going to strengthen their data access as well. Part of that is their data, whatever you call it.
We need to wait till Danny gets here, so his signature needs to be on that. That's whose name's there.
Well, we can cross out his name in print. I didn't realize he wasn't going to be here today.
Okay. He was running late and should be here at some point, but I don't know when.
You got a problem with that?
Problem.
I don't either. I'll make a motion that we enter into the water tower co-location agreement at 1095 and 1850 Road for our antennas.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. You need that back or?
Yeah, I'll give it to Chris to get to the sign.
Can I get a copy of that before?
You bet.
Away?
We'll do that. And then I'm gonna need about 15 minutes of legal as well, so that gives a total of 25 minutes of legal.
Okay. David, do you have anything else?
Think I've got anything else for out here right now,
Okay, so we want
Danny?
to, Dan? We want to go ahead with public comment? Or go take care of our legal? Jim?
I don't care. Make any difference to me.
You want to take over?
What are you doing?
Huh?
Where you at?
So, we've got 25 minutes of legal executive session to take care of. 10 with Sean, 20 with, or 15 with Gary. And then, we've been through the department heads. All we've got left is the two things on the agenda down below and public comment left.
You want to do the executive session right now?
Sure. We can.
You just want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for 25 minutes, 10 with Sean for legal and 15 with Gary for legal.
I'll second. Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gary, I guess we're gonna go ahead and take some action on that.
Um,
What do you think?
what you have before you is whether to retain Trish Voth of Fulton Sifton Attorney Firm to provide some outside counsel in regard to the development of the specifics of the solar matters that are probably going to become before the county.
What was the name of her company again?
The lawyer firm, the attorney firm is Fulton Sifton. It goes by both. The attorney's name is Trish Voth. And what you would be doing is agreeing to retain her and authorizing me to contact her. Make that clear.
I'll make a motion that we retain Trish Voth of Folston and Simkin to assist Gary with dealing with any solar issues that we may have existing.
I'll second. Motion moving second. Any more discussion?
I think we'll look around, look for some different options myself.
Do you know, what's your reason, Jim? Do you want to talk about that or what, how do you?
I think we should look at different options than just one attorney.
And she was chosen how, Gary?
We had 3 different firms that we looked at that had extensive experience in this area. And one of them didn't contact me back. The second one we talked to, and she was the third one we talked to, and we felt like she was the most on top of things. And we have had good luck working with that firm before.
And what exactly will she be doing for us? Can you explain that again?
She'll be guiding us on dealing with the companies, giving us insight into how they expect to, what they expect, for example, to pay in terms of payment in lieu of taxes, what kinds of restrictions they expect to see on use of roads, that sort of thing. She'll be giving us guidance on dealing with any opposition to the solar projects. That if to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're preparing ourselves appropriately for any kind of litigation and so forth that could come out of it.
So I think it's important for us commissioners. I mean, we don't really know what we're looking for. Can we bring her in for like a workshop and we sit with her and we ask her the questions we need?
She'd be happy to either come and meet with you or meet with you on Zoom or whatever you want to do. I mean,
so what would her contract entail from the get-go? I mean, could we just retain her to educate us on all the questions we have to help us?
you retain her, then she represents us in this matter, and she'll do whatever work we tell her to do.
But she'll charge us for whatever work, and if we don't have, we'll be paying for it. Correct. We'll be paying for it, correct?
We'll be paying the bill, but it is expected, anticipated, and normal that those costs are a part of the application fee that the utility companies pay. It says in the regulations that any outside professional assistance we obtain, they'll reimburse us.
I mean, that's our workshop would, I mean, I'd have a bunch of questions about like, what is what would we include in the cut process regulations? I mean, I'm not,
Well, the
I don't really
regulations
know what
are
we're
already
looking
there, but some of the forms are not there.
We're looking for someone to help us negotiate.
Ally, this ain't public comment right now, please. We, I just don't know, I mean, how do we,
Why not? I mean, if you decide to retain her, I think the first thing I would ask her to do is to list for you some of the things that she thinks that she would probably need to be helping us with, just to see what she says about that. She could do that, in half an hour. Would that be useful?
And if at any time we decide she's not the person for us, we can come back and start looking for another one.
Absolutely. Or you can just not have an outside counsel.
I think it's important. I don't think I don't know how we would even make the decision on which lawyer is the best. I mean, we're not professionals in this. So I'm looking at this attorney to educate me on all of this stuff too, and answer all the questions I have and what process we're going to be taking it through and whatnot. So, do you know those details? I don't.
I know some of them, but not all of them. No, that's why I recommended you get outside counsel.
So what's the agreement with her going to look like?
It'll just be a letter, a retention letter that says you're retaining her to do what legal work you want her to do on this matter. And here are her rates and here's how she bill.
I would personally like to start with some kind of workshop with her to ask the questions that I have and educate us a little bit. How do you guys feel? Linn?
I'm fine with that.
What we can and can't include in the permitting process.
Right. Ultimately, we're in control of what happens.
That's right.
Correct.
No, I
The three
agree.
of us are the ones that's in control. It isn't her. It is, she can guide us, but it's ultimately the decision lays right here on three people.
No, I agree. And is this pretty time sensitive, Gary?
Well, I expect that we'll be getting applications soon, and even if we don't get one in the next week or two, the applicants are wanting to know some of these things that we can't answer yet.
And by law, do we have a certain amount of time that we have to?
Once we have an application, it's supposed to be processed in 60 days. Now, there are things that can cause that to slow down, but
Got any more discussion?
I don't.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-1. So can we reach out to her and get a workshop set up where, I'm thinking like a half a day probably.
I'll reach out to her first. I also have this, is it time you want to do this real estate thing now, or do you want to do post?
Is he here?
I don't think he's coming, is he?
Well, we had the schedule at 10:30.
Oh, I thought it was at 10. Never mind.
We got Darren on for 10:15. What else do you have?
That's all I've got, is just that real estate thing.
We can public comment.
Yeah, we can open it up for public comment. You want to come up and state your name? We're going to limit it to 5 minutes though, so please this ain't let's just keep it simple, please.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Sherry Gentry, and we wanted to talk to you gentlemen about a few things that have been concerning us. First of all, we want you to please remember that you're our voice. We rely on all of you to keep us informed. We realize we might be a little late to the game here, and we take responsibility for that, but we're here now, and we're not alone. Many residents missed the notices regarding these massive solar farms. Everyone in the county seemed to know about the wind turbines, but somehow we all missed the solar farms. There's a lot of us that were not informed, and I know this personally because I went face to face and obtained signatures from citizens in the county that were not aware of the solar farms and they were not for them. And a group of us landowners have obtained a total of over 800 signatures in just a few days of taxpayers who are against the solar farms, which is about 10% of our county. With that being said, all of us here today are taxpayers, landowners, friends, and neighbors, and we want to be included in this discussion and decisions of our county. We acknowledge that all the commissioners in planning and zoning all work very hard, and you try your best, and this isn't an attack on any of you. But we were not informed. Whatever the breakdown was in communication, we're here now. We would love for you to hear us. Please reconsider addressing this in a public forum. We feel we are not the only ones in the county that were not informed. We, the people of this county, will be the ones living with these massive solar farms for the next 30 years. I don't believe this is a decision that should be taken lightly without the input of 100% of our county. Please allow us to help inform our neighbors and residents of the county, and please revisit this and open it up for public discussion. And also, please take into account, if solar farms go through, they're here forever. Are the benefits really worth the sacrifices to so many of the people in the county? People don't want to buy or live near solar farms. The damage to our beautiful environment, the animals, the creatures that live here, and interference with the bird migration, the temperature change near the solar panels, noise pollution. I've read where inverters can make noise up to 50 to 80 decibels, and the possible health risks, just to name a few. And Jason, I had a really nice discussion with you about your views on solar farms. You told me you really weren't for them, but you were all about landowners' rights. I agree. We do have landowners' right up to the point that it affects our neighbors' rights. You are correct in considering all involved in any given issue, but it all comes back to the majority. The majority elected all of our county officials. So if the majority in our county says and believes it's going to affect our county and our way of life negatively, this is your job to support us and share in our views because the majority has elected you all. And Danny, you and I had a nice discussion the other night at the Planning and Zoning. And your take on it, from what I recall, was that we're way ahead of the game. Nobody has asked for conditional use permits or anything like that. And we just said we wanted to make our voices heard. You said there really wasn't anything you could do until somebody applied for a conditional use permit. And with that being said, are any of you aware that right across the street at the Register of Deeds is 5 signed contracts with EDF Renewables? They date back to 2020. Those deeds for solar farms were signed with Maple Ranch in 2020, Lance Dirks in 2021, Janet Carlin Trust in 2021, and Jeff Nelson has 2 contracts. Currently, at Janet Carlin's location, there is a test site right now on 1700 Road in Yancey. So, let's see, where am I? The land under solar farms will never be farmed or grazed again, and many of us will be looking at them for the rest of our lives. These are massive solar projects of 8,000 acres being constructed and constantly sprayed with pesticides with possible risks of many health risks. Please take a step back and look at the many solar fires in the news lately, one just recently in New York. The governor had great concerns for the air quality, pollution, and health risks to the residents around them and the firefighters that would be called to take care of them. Please take another look at this for us. Solar farms are going to affect many, many of our lives and our local farming and cattle industry for the next 30 to 50 years, just for a monetary benefit of a very few who don't even live in the county. We acknowledge that the Planning and Zoning Committee have worked very hard, but Article 14 has been revisited and changed at the request of a few people. What I'm referring to is when Josh Frammel from Clearway showed up at the meeting that none of us were at, in which he and Mike Christie were making negotiations. He and the attorney Levy from EDF made several suggestions in the changing of the planning and zoning, and it was changed from 4,000 to 8,000 acres, as it was printed in the Linn County Journal in May. This seems like a conflict of interest to me, that of course they're going to want 8,000 acres of our land. It's more money for their companies. We're asking you to please, please reconsider a forum of your constituents and a possible reevaluation of Article 14. The citizens of this county deserve a chance to be heard. We live here, whether we're late to the game or not. And commercial solar farms will change the look of our beautiful county forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Or have you look at these. These are all the contracts that are all in public file, and they have all been filed in 20 and 21. So this isn't just something that's just come about. It's been ongoing.
But just because they were recorded doesn't mean anything, right, Gary? I mean,
It just means that they have, they're giving public notice that they have a lease.
it'd just be like any other company going out and talking to a small time landowner and getting them to sign a contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Danny, the deal is all of us listeners have been approached and we've got all these contracts on file. This is proof this is coming.
Well, yeah.
That's why we're all wanting to be involved in the process.
We've been working on this for 2 years, Sherry.
I know you.
And I know that you guys would like the
As I
meeting moved.
stated, we don't want to fight with anybody. We just want to be heard.
Well, I mean, I'm all about that too. You guys, every Monday we're here. There's in the newspaper, the journal, I just try to share as much as I can on
As I
Facebook.
stated, there's a breakdown in communication somewhere because there's many, many citizens. We got 10% in 2 weeks that didn't know anything about it.
I can't
talk.
I can't call
All I
everybody.
can say is these people are not informed. 10% in 2 weeks, we're not informed. And that's what we want to bring to the attention of our commissioners who represent us, to let you know that the people in your county do not know all the proceedings. Thank you.
So at 10:15, we have Darren is scheduled for that slot. So we have to keep it to very minimum. So.
I can go.
yeah.
Hey, my name is Emily Thies, and I want to start by addressing the county's attorney's scolding of the county citizens on Tuesday night at the planning and zoning meeting. You laid out a list of rules for petitioning the
I don't want this in the meeting today, and we don't have to allow the public comment, and that is irrelevant. I don't want to talk about that. I don't.
This has to do with the rules and regulations.
Well, I really don't want.
How many times do we get to shut down?
Well, I'm going to.
Is there public comments?
We're not here to point fingers at each other. Let's talk about that only, not about what happened at the meeting or how it was performed.
My point is, he made a list of what we could do to fight it. And when me and Allison came in here on July 3rd to speak at the public comment sections, I had to go back to the YouTube video to verify that what I heard was correct. And what we were told is that if Article 14 was passed, that we would be able to voice our objections once a constitutional use permit was applied for. Notifications would be sent out to affected residents, and only after that could we protest the regulations. However, you made a list of the 21 days, the 30 days after the regulations were passed that we knew nothing about. That's my whole point.
Read the regulations?
Yes, I have.
It's all in there.
Okay. Everything that you laid out last Tuesday was information that was heard from us for the first time last Tuesday. Did the county list those specific rules in the newspaper article, preferably top front page for people to see? No. Why is that? Why is it that the people in this room were supposed to protect the citizens and inform them for life-changing and life-altering ways of life, and they are not? My topic today is about the materials that will be used in the solar panels. Section 14-408 prohibits toxic materials in solar panel components. Section B then goes on to say that the solar companies may request an exemption from the prohibition if there are no alternative materials available. These panels would include the makeup of lead and cadmium as long as signage is posted. The reason I'm speaking on this subject is that we built the house down here in 2003. By the end of 2007, I got deathly sick. And for 7 years, I went to doctors and they didn't know what was wrong, and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to figure it out, and it was heavy metal poisoning. When I spoke to my doctor about solar panel farms coming here, he told me, you need to move. You need to get the hell out of there. It's going to make you sick. The panels are made up of arsenic, cadmium, silicon, copper, and lead. The solar panels are set in massive fields and they feed into a DC connector, which produce electrical arcing where the electricity flows through an air gap through ionized gas molecules and become hot enough that it can cause combustion. Once a fire is started, water cannot contain the fire, and those toxic chemicals are released into the ground and the air. Solar farm fires have increased threefold throughout the country, causing sickness and death. Solar panels generate electricity through the photovoltaic cells, and these cells convert the sunlight into electricity. They also emit EMF radiation. There are people that start having symptoms from a condition called electromagnetic hypersensitivity. And these symptoms include insomnia, headaches, depression, fatigue, lack of concentration, memory issues, dizziness, irritability, weight loss, anxiety, nausea, and skin burning and tingling. Living next to a solar farm with the amount of light they produce can be so bright that it can cause a glare and cause eye damage. The heat that is generated by these massive fields of solar panel can cause the temperature to rise in the community from 3 to 8 degrees higher. When the air is warmed, it rises. Even small differences in ordinary land surfaces are capable of creating power forces of weather like thunderstorms and tornadoes. And both are not safe around solar panel farms. These are just some of the problems that will come to our community if this proceeds forward. After Article 14 limited the setbacks to residential homes to 200 feet, and the national average recommended is 1.2 miles. We believe it is in the best interest of our community for there to be a public hearing on this matter. It is not right that the planning and zoning meeting gave more time for the solar representatives to speak than their own citizens. To me, it shows a lack of interest and a blatant disregard to what your constituents are trying to tell you that they do not want in their community. Thank you.
So Gary, from my understanding, everything that we're hiring this lawyer to make sure that we're covering with we're requiring the solar companies to provide us with all this education. Like we're not even to that point, right? There's no project.
There's no applications yet.
There's no.
I said, well, I expect we'll get one sometime in the next couple of weeks, but we don't have one yet. That's different than having one now.
So what we're trying to do is retain a lawyer to educate us on all this stuff. And I'm looking at this lawyer to come sit right here and talk to us for 4 or 5 hours, educate us. I'll ask all the stupid questions. I don't care. Everybody knows that. It doesn't matter to me. I'm a give type of guy. If they're going to come to our county and want something, I want to know what I can legally ask them to have in return. That's what I'm looking at this lawyer for. And as far as all these studies and stuff, I know nothing about none of that. None of us do. So we're going to require a biologist to come in. We're going to require, what it's going to do to land values. I mean, right? Is that correct? That's
There will be studies
her for to educate us.
Can we request that the environmental study not be chosen by the solar farms and all the renewable energy people? Because I feel there could be conflicts of interest there. And the same thing, I felt like there was a conflict of interest in allowing them to engage in how the Article 14 was written. We all felt that was a conflict of interest. You're like bringing the fox to the hen house and let him make the rules.
Well, it's like I told you out there. I was like, I don't even know you know the guys' names. I don't, because I don't want to. I don't know nothing about wind or solar right now, and I don't want to get that thought that they're telling me the truth. I'm going to educate myself. I want to know the pros and cons of both sides.
Education, not coming
No, I agree.
from the solar farms and the renewable energies that are trying to take over our county.
No, exactly. And that's where I think that when we meet with this lawyer, we come up with the do's and don'ts. And then we can maybe have an open forum about it, and we talk about if there is questions that you guys have that need added to it. I mean, would that be acceptable, Gary?
Right. I mean, that's part of the job of this attorney that we've retained, being experienced in this area, that she can educate us on things that might catch us off guard, that we're not prepared for.
Well, the bottom line is we're all trying to say is we may have missed the notifications, whatever the circumstances, we're sorry for that. This is going to affect all of us directly, and some of us more than others when it's around our properties and everything. And so we're not trying to be, rude to any of you or discard that you haven't worked hard on it. That's not the point. The point is, this is a decision that can't be done lightly, and it's going to affect you all as well.
Well, and the approach I take on it is Bourbon County they didn't have any restrictions.
They have no zoning.
So now they just kind of came in there, they put on their land, they said, this is what you get, deal with it. And so just because this is me personally, just because I voted for, I wanted wind and power. I didn't want to put a prohibition against any of that because my personal opinion is it's going to end up us in a lawsuit. Somebody's going to go with Evergy, and I don't know if it'd be, I'm just making an example. Then they come back and sue us, and we have to use your guys' tax dollars to fight them by restricting your land.
Didn't Mike White address that when he said that he, this had been to the Supreme Court and counties had won against these?
Is that, they've had one with a,
with wind.
sure. But
That was one with wind.
I just think that just because I voted for restrictions on the solar, I wanted restrictions on on wind too, because I personally think that we shouldn't limit your guys' rights, but in the end, we should ask for, just because I voted for it, restrictions on it does not mean I really want it here. Does that make sense? But if it's going to come here, I think there should be the most strenuous regulations on it that they don't want to come here. But if they do, then it's in favor of us, we should entertain it. But it doesn't mean we have to approve it.
That's what concerns us. There's a lot of holes in the Article 14. We don't feel like it's as strong as it could be.
And that's why I'm leaning on this lawyer to try to figure all that out.
Well, and another thing I'd like to bring to light, I spoke to some people from Anderson County, and they have a moratorium on the solar, and they stopped the wind. And there were several people in the southeast portion of their county that said, oh, it doesn't affect us, we don't want any part of it. Well, now the person I spoke to said, well, they're coming to us now going, what are we going to do? Because there's a massive power line that's coming from western Kansas, and it's going through Coffee County, and it's going across Missouri. Josh Howley has been fighting terribly for it because they are doing public, eminent domain on many of the residents, and they're in a huge court right now in Missouri. But that's what comes behind all this stuff. And I just think we need to have a broader picture of what's to come. It's not just solar farms. They gotta have big power lines to take this stuff. And there's a name, I can't remember the name of it, but it's Josh Howley's fighting it right now in court because it's a massive, massive power line that's running from western Kansas through Coffee County, through Missouri, clear to Indiana, and they're public domaining people the whole way across.
And I think that us putting these restrictions on it helped us in that case a little bit, because if not, they would just come here. Right. And the people that had signed these little.
Forward too, if you allow them, there's a lot of things that come behind solar that people are not aware of, and this is all just coming to light.
But I don't feel like we're not allowing anything. There's not even a project at hand yet.
But are you saying that because you guys passed the Article 14 regulations, that because you passed it, you now open yourself up to lawsuits from these companies, even though nothing has been approved?
I think that you can open yourself up to lawsuits either way you look at it. I mean, I think if you didn't, somebody's going to get mad that they can't do whatever they want in their land and they'll sue. I mean, I think they can sue for anything. But I think that my opinion is, that's why I voted for it. And I don't think we should have restricted ourselves against the wind either. I think it's going to come back and bite us in the ass. So
But doesn't majority rule, I mean, in our county, doesn't.
No, but my personal opinion is I think that we should all be open-minded about
How
it.
can they sue
And
us if there are 4 or 5 corporate farm landowners that don't even live in their county? How can they come out the whole entire county and say, well, we want solar, we don't live here, we don't care what this is.
I agree with you, and I don't know.
So I don't feel that's a valid issue because 4 or 5 landowners, I don't feel like they can restrict the rest of the county.
What are the rules as far as getting something like this on a voting ballot? For the
I,
county?
that,
There is no procedure under state statute to put something like this on a ballot.
So it can just be done?
What I was trying to say was that the commissioners can do what they call an advisory election, that they could choose to put some sort of a question of any kind on the ballot. But it's not a binding election. It doesn't have to be followed. The results don't have to be followed. They can do an advisory election, but there are no statutes that allow any other kind of election on issues with counties. In fact, I think I've got a list of the,
Can we request that you do that?
Is that something you commissioners would be willing to do?
To see what the actual interest is, since we are not calling a public hearing for all this.
We said they may possibly.
and that's what I want to, after we talk to this lawyer, we retain her, we ask all the questions that we have, then I think that we should open it up to the public. I don't think that's out of the ordinary. I think that's very acceptable.
That's really what we want. We want to have a voice, and we want you guys, we don't think you're bad people. Please don't ever think that. We just want you to understand where we're coming from. We know you've all worked hard at this, and we're sorry that we're a little late to the game.
No, and
We know
I know, I get it, but I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from. Just, if we wouldn't have had restrictions against this, I feel like that they're coming full force all around the world. I mean, they really are. I mean, it's,
100% correct.
and I think that we got ahead of it by putting these restrictions on the land and whatnot. But I think that we have to be open-minded about it. I mean, we just don't have all kinds of industry banging on our back door here. And this county's, we're hurting a little bit. I mean, everybody gets all mad that their taxes are so high. We have no industry wanting to come here at all. I'm not saying just because they're wanting to come here, we should take advantage of it. But I'm saying that if they want something from us, they're coming to us, asking us for land. I don't think it'd be out of the ordinary for us to be open-minded and say, well, you're going to give us double whatever you want. So tell me what you can give me. I mean, if, like, my thought on the solar or the wind turbines were like, and it might be an ignorant approach, maybe it's not even legal, I don't know, but that's why I need a lawyer. But I'd be like, well, if you're going to windmill here, I want 10 miles of paved road, maintained for 10 years if you want to put it on my land, or if you want to come to my county.
I think those are good thoughts, but one of my biggest questions is, all these companies that are coming in are foreign entities, and if you look at they're based out of France, and then they have a lot of ties to China. All you have to do is pull them up and really dig, and all the ones that have been here, there's some ties there that is concerning to myself personally.
And like I told you out there, I don't even know the names of the companies. I haven't entertained.
But my point going there is, if they're a foreign entity and the government subsidies dry up, what recourse do we have to make sure that they're going to clean up this? When the solar panels are broken, or they're not making any money.
And that's what I want to ask the lawyer that we retain. I want to say, hey, at the end of this per contract, can we have a bond or a contingency fund, a bank account where they put $100 million in it? If they don't fulfill that contract or whatever, they lose that money and it comes to us. I mean, that's the kind of restrictions I'm thinking in my mind before I
Damaging the land for 50 plus years to never,
No, I get that. And I believe that we'll have,
and toxic waste left behind. It's not like we can take this stuff to the dump or West Recycling.
and I think that that's where the studies come in, right? We're going to have engineers come in. We're going to have, I'm looking at, what's a typical price for a CUP process or permit?
well, it's paid. I mean, that varies a lot. Most people that have doing a CUP are wanting to put a little store on the corner
But
of
we're
the
looking
lot,
at-
and it costs them $500 for
We're looking at this later.
Allow that test station there without CUP.
because it falls under the
Domestic.
the domestic category, which doesn't require CUP.
They'd be like, you putting one at your house and us coming question you on it. And that's the same difference.
They're not selling any electricity off that. They're just basically
With
with
somebody that has a solar panel already extended out, just, I mean, if they've already got a,
if they've got, if they're using it themselves, if they're not selling electricity,
There's been nothing but agricultural land there. It's a test site.
as long as they're not selling electricity off-site and it's less than 10 acres.
How are you guys gonna monitor that?
I haven't inspected it. I think maybe Darren has. I don't know.
Well, that would be interesting.
Danny, I got a question. I'm Scott. I've lived here for 26 years, and what I'm hearing is just a lot of confusion. So why not slow this thing down? Put a moratorium for 6 months. I mean, you're so worried about getting sued, but it sounds like you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit one way. You have time to do it.
But I think, you know, but I'm not, I think we have to be open-minded, and I think we have to get the lawyer's opinion on what, I'm not going to vote for the CUP unless it's benefit of everybody in this county and the county in the long run.
Just be careful about making any statements that prejudge any specific applications, because that's what we don't want to do.
Right. Well,
You can prejudge us, just not the solar companies. So
Your voters, right.
I don't believe anybody said anything derogatory about any of you.
I think that
that's how it was taken.
well, I'll just say that I'm not going to be voting for anything unless I'm very educated on it and I have all my facts right and it benefits us more than it's going to benefit them. So that's really the end of the story. That's what I got to say. So.
If it's brought to you, do you make it go to the public that you're going to be voting on it, or is it just look every Monday to see if it's on the?
Oh, there are public notices galore. First of all, you haven't even seen a conditional use process that you paid attention to. Let me tell you how it works. They bring in the conditional use application. We do all the work to get the application complete. Sometimes that takes a few weeks, sometimes it takes longer. Once it's ready for hearing, then there's a publication that says that there's going to be a public hearing on this date at this place, and a letter goes out to everyone within 1,000 feet of the border of the property that's been applied for. Tell them the same thing. And so if you live within 1,000 feet of this property, you're going to get a letter. If you read the newspaper, it's there. And we also put it in both the Linn County News and the Journal.
So you're saying that before it is issued, the notification is sent out to all the residents that are affected by it. It's not issued and then a letter.
That is correct.
Which one? That-
Just what I said. I said before, okay, let me explain it again real slowly.
Before, I'm not an idiot. Before it is issued, you send out.
Get the application, we send out the notice, we have the hearing, then the planning commission discusses the matter, and eventually they make a recommendation to the commissioners. The commissioners then either reject their recommendation, accept their recommendation, or send it back for changes.
Mr. Thompson, so I understand the process of what you just spoke about, but I guess part of the problem is the landowners all feel that once you get to that point, we're gonna have one time to address this in one meeting. And that's why we're reaching out to all of you commissioners and asking us to please allow us to have a public forum so that everyone can be heard.
And that's certainly possible. I mean, the commissioners could do that if they want to, but they're not required to. That's the point.
We understand, and that's what we're here today to ask you, if you all would please vote to give us a public forum and allow us to all speak and for the rest of the county to all speak involved. Because from our experience, I'm not a lot of people. And I don't think you as commissioners are going to want to pass something that the county that you represent on a forum as well.
And that's my thought on the attorney is we get her, we educate ourselves, we ask the questions, we get a rough draft of whatever she comes up with and whatever we come up with, and then we present it in a public meeting just like this. And
Can we get you guys to commit to a public meeting for us?
I don't think that'd be a problem. I mean, what do you guys think?
I don't have a problem with it.
Great, thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, can you vote on that? That you will do that? First motion.
I don't know how that, I mean, that would, can I just say I promise to have one?
You just make a motion that you will have another public forum meeting for citizens of the county on the solar and their articles.
So, I mean, when I'm speaking about that, Gary, when I'm talking about, we meet with her, we have a closed discussion with her, but, and they can watch it on the camera, and then we'll bring it back the following week or 2 weeks, whatever, and then we can
I wouldn't
discuss it.
commit to having it in a week or 2 weeks, but when we have it, yeah.
And then we move forward like that. I mean, is that,
You can have a public meeting anytime you want, and you can open it up as a public forum, whenever you want to. You can set whatever rules you want for that public forum. You can, my recommendation, if it's about this issue, is that you make it clear up front that you're not going to respond to the things you're hearing, but you're going to listen to all of it. I also recommend that it's my recommendation. Now you take it or leave it. That anybody who's going to make a presentation in your public forum ought to have a written document to give you so you can study it. Because it's one thing to hear something in a 2-hour meeting, but it's another thing to be able to sit down and study it. And so I think written submissions are far superior to verbal submissions.
I agree.
Well, you're trying to influence them, right?
I know. But we can educate the public on our own as well, with our petitions that we have. We would like, I personally would like to discuss with you three gentlemen at a meeting in a big forum, just like you did in winter. And we can all come up with the paperwork of who's going to speak and give you an idea of what's going to be talked about. But I really think it's important that all three of you speak to your constituents.
And that's where I think, after we talk to this lawyer and we figure out the process, I think that's very important. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm promising. I don't know if I make a motion on that or what, but I mean, that's where I don't know the details, but yeah, I want to open it back up to you guys. And, and I invite everybody every Monday. I wish you guys would, I know it's hard to get here. I mean, I worked all night long. That's why I was late getting here, but,
Well, can you make a motion that you will have a meeting in the future
you guys good with it?
before any conditional use permits are signed?
I'll make a motion that we, after we meet with this lawyer, we come back and we open it up for, public comment and advice and concern. Once we have the regulations in place, not the regulations, once we have a rough draft and we have our questions answered from our legal advisor, so.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, we're a little behind schedule. We're gonna close the public comment for now. I don't know if you guys want to hang out. We can maybe open it back up. I don't know how they feel about it. I'd be okay with it, but we're gonna move forward with Darren real quick and get this stuff taken care of if you guys want to hang out a little longer. So, if he's around, is Darren around?
He's probably in his office watching.
What about Brandon? Is Brandon here? Oh yeah, Brandon.
Back here.
Brandon, we need probably a 10-minute.
No, we can't do an executive session on the sale of real estate. We only do it on the acquisition of real estate.
So even with an offer and everything, we don't go into.
Unfortunately, we can't.
All right, Brandon, come on up and discuss with us what you have. We have Brandon hired to represent us for the sale of the Mills on Wheels site in Pleasanton.
Here's a copy of the signed offer from the buyer. We reduced the price to $60,000, and I think it was like 3 days later, the buyer reached out to me and he made a full price cash offer for the property. His intention is to renovate the property a little bit and put an apartment in it. And then he also sells denting appliances from like Sam's and or Lowe's. Home Depot. Yeah. So he's gonna use a portion of the building for storage. But I put a 45-day close in there, and last week when I was in there, the folks were still in there eating, so I didn't know how that worked with you guys' schedule, but
We're working with the STARS program, and they're going to remodel the new building that we have. They're going to help with it, and we're probably, I'd say 45 to 60 days out on it, I'd say, just because it's a school program doing it.
Would 60 days screw the deal up?
well, he's okay going ahead and closing on it and letting the folks use it. But I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, there's a little liability issue.
Yeah, I don't think we want to do that, but if we accept the contract with the understanding that it may be 60 days or maybe even a little more.
Right now, we have 45 days written in, and he's already signed it.
Uh-huh.
So the appropriate thing at this point would be,
Make a counter.
if you guys decide you want to make a counter, we'll just send you the documents electronically. You guys can sign it, but you can decide today. But you got to understand that if you sign it for 60 days, a contract's a contract. You'll probably have to be out in 60 days unless it decides that.
And don't you think it's unlikely that we'll really be ready to be in that new
So,
building?
but what's our,
Options?
well, I mean, so they miss a week or a couple of weeks at the congregate site?
We can deliver meals, right?
We could still have meals,
Yeah,
delivered
good.
meals.
I had thought of
and things
that.
way.
I'd be willing to talk to Pleasanton, City of Pleasanton, and seeing what their thought on
Do a temporary site somewhere?
temporary site, maybe the community center or the old community center with the HUD house people. But so our hiccup, I don't know, Sean's not in here, but we have to sign up for a restaurant license, correct?
That's my
Yes.
understanding.
So that's really the big issue, but
And I don't know how that would fit in with the temporary site, whether that would be a duplicative process.
I don't want to do
We have
anything
an
that,
opportunity if you can do a lease back, like you can rent it, but we'll have to send it appropriate documents.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really up to you guys, but we do have it on the open market. It's kind of out of the ordinary to extend something beyond 60 days. So, and we haven't had a lot of interest in the property, so I would encourage.
how do you feel about if we,
I think we should.
I think we have to, I don't,
You can just be moved out in 60, like you said, and send give it their home meals to 30 days if that's what it took. If you want to sell the property. I mean, if you got the buyer, you
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right.
move on.
do you think that'll mess, I mean, do you think
Anytime you counter or modify an offer, you're taking a risk.
Yeah.
When you sign that and that document is sent to the buyer, they have an opportunity to decide to change their mind. I don't see that happening, but that's the risk you take because you do have a signed offer from a buyer. I don't think there's an issue.
Sean?
I could certainly put him on the phone right now.
how do you guys feel about that? I mean, I would rather, if we had.
I don't have a problem with going at the 45 days, and if we have to deliver meals for a couple of weeks or a month or something along those lines, we've got our plan in place. We're working toward it. We've already acquired the other building. They've been through it,
How long does it usually take to close on something like this?
I mean, I could close it this Friday. I mean, it's just as fast as the title company can work. Because and in addition to this, something else that was negotiated is, the buyer is gonna cover all the closing costs. The seller's responsibility typically is to cover title insurance, guaranteeing clear marketable title of the property. He's covering that in this offer. The only thing you guys are gonna be paying is a 6% real estate commission.
Would it be out of the ordinary for us to go ahead and try to close on it, and then we ask him if you let us stay in it for 40 days, we pay the electricity, you can go ahead and utilize your storage, you can start doing whatever you need, but they're going to be in this area. How do you feel about that? I mean,
That's an attorney question.
If
your liability though, right?
Yeah, if we close on it and then continue to occupy it, we would have to lease it back from him to make it
To
legal.
make it legal.
Well, is that something we should entertain then?
It could do that. I mean, I think your home deliveries would sound like a better idea to me.
I just think that we got to move quick. I don't want to lose this opportunity on this building. I think this is,
I think the people over there are gonna understand if we're on home delivery for
You got,
weeks.
I mean, you guys are welcome to talk to him. I can put him on speakerphone. I told him I may be calling him because I was coming up.
I just think the faster we get closed on it,
Why not just, I talked to Sean. Sean said that he was pretty sure they could be done in 60 days. He didn't think they could do it in 45 days.
But if we wait to close on this till 45, then we're only talking a couple weeks that it's closed in between. We can sign the contract, we can get the contract in place for our offer. They can start moving forward and be ready to
And then
close.
I tell Sean to shoot for 45 days. If it goes beyond that, we know we're gonna have a gap. Is that what
We
you
can, we can still move out in 45 and then just do the home delivery for whatever it takes.
Correct. Okay.
How do you feel about that, Brandon?
I can't really advise you. But if you guys are agreeable to that offer, I don't know who needs to sign it.
This, I mean, you said he's paid all the bills.
Well, that's, it's not a legal document, it's just a summary estimated.
So that's not in this thing, son?
Right. If it is, don't sign it. Make sure you look closely at the additional terms. Are you on the additional terms paragraph?
Look at the earnest money.
It's $1,000. Finance page, so there won't be anything on that.
Additional disclosure? No. Additional money's an additional deposit?
No additional deposits, there's no special assessments, and the taxes are prorated to the vehicle. This is a page discussing evidence of title, and the buyer's going to pay for the evidence title. That's title policy guaranteeing clear marketable title of the property. And the last page, you just sign identifying that you reviewed the offer, and you're fully aware of what you're signing.
And the document you sent me had an as-is page in it. Was this in there?
In its present condition addendum.
Yeah. You sign it.
What's all included in the building? So there's a few appliances.
Look right here. Let me see what this says. There's no seller's disclosure and condition of property. Seller to leave the building free of debris and trash. Buyer may leave appliances with property. Well,
May.
yeah. Buyer intends to renovate and build apartments and use additional space for storage of new appliances.
All right, so what's the,
If you are ready to sign it, you just need a motion to accept the offer and authorize Danny to sign the agreement.
So there's your closing date. It's on or before 10/27/2023.
David, what do you have made up for the motion on that?
I'm just typing, just move to accept the offer as presented and authorize the chair to sign.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Motion moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Do I need initial?
I'll need you to, first thing, in this present, this is a supplement. I'll need you to sign this in its present condition addendum. It basically says buyer waives any right to conduct inspections as outlined in the inspection paragraph of the contract. Sellers will make no repairs and or treatments. Buyer waives any right to cancel or renegotiate pursuant to the inspection provisions of this contract. So you'll just need to sign there and date today's date, and then you'll initial every page of this and there's pages to sign.
It need to be a certain color.
There you go.
What is today? The 18th. Hey guys, we're trying to have a meeting in here. If you guys want to talk, please go out there. I'm not trying to be rude. We're just trying to have a meeting, so.
I'll need initial seller on every page.
Do you guys want to look this over real quick?
We got it on our.
Oh, you said on the computer. I didn't even look.
Hey, Gary, you fully understand what a transaction broker did, and it means I'm facilitating the transaction, but I can't represent it. That's why I need that.
You can't even move up.
I can't. And then you will sign right there, date. Sign right there.
David, do you need this?
I think we'll get a copy of everything, right?
And I just discussed this with Gary. This is transaction broker denim. You can just sign and date that. This just means I'm the facilitator. You guys employed me to market and sell the property for you, but I cannot advise you on what to do. Sign and date.
You can at least give us a hat though, right?
Yes. Okay, the process will be, this paperwork will be turned into the title company. They'll do a title search, they'll do a hard search on the property, they'll make sure that there's nothing funny. Title policy will be issued, we'll send that to the buyer. He'll have an opportunity to review the title policy as well as all the closing documents prior to closing. And we'll get you guys a copy of those numbers too, so you guys understand what you're gonna be signing before we just drop it in your lap at the closing, okay? That'll be the process, and we can do most of this. It's really up to you guys.
And did you guys talk about this before I got here? Or did Sean, did you talk about anything on this with this? Is there anything you want to add about this or to this or inform us? Like maybe the restaurant license that we have to hold?
For us, that I understand right now, I've been in communication with a representative from Stars. They are talking about the possibility of what they can and can't assist with. I'm going to get them a list by the end of business today. They're going to go through that list and tell us what they're able to assist us with. It could start as early as late this week with the demo of the process. We will also, our staff will have to send out emails to all the department heads and anyone in the county. I'll have to go over and meet with them to make sure that there is no property stored in the building that belongs to other parties. Make sure that all that property is removed, and then I'll have to start managing what's left at the facility and bring it back to you for direction on what to do with that property. The license, we're still in communications with ECA about the license and how long that process will be. But as Jim mentioned, if we run past that, we'll run past that. I don't anticipate it being a long process. We can make application and wait a few weeks for the date for them to inspect it. It's just going to be a matter of
Something you
timing.
have to apply. Rick, you
Building
might.
has to be finished before you can get your license.
Rick, do you still sit on that board? Yeah, you don't sit on that board? Do you
I
know?
do.
Oh, you sit on it now?
Yes.
What, do you know what the process with that would be? I mean, do we have to apply for it and they have to come down and inspect it or what?
We have to apply for it. It's not them coming and inspecting it. It's the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
So if the reno and the license puts us out at all as far as timeline, then the next option will be to move prior to that opening of the next facility, make whatever arrangements we have to do for temporary until those things are issued and we go forward. But at this point, knowing as little as I know about the process, I believe we're on a path that we can still control it. I just don't know how it will end and whether we'll meet those timelines, but we will be able to manage it.
And if we just ask one more time, can we ask Ottawa one more time about the licenses so we can get moving on?
We're-
They're not the ones who issue the license.
We're asking about the process and trying to get those dates and things and acquire those.
How does that work?
I have a meeting
do
there
they still?
tomorrow.
Oh, you got a meeting tomorrow?
Mhm.
Do they still have to approve, like, so if we do pull a license, I mean, or a license, I guess, does Ottawa have to approve the location? Is that how that works?
You have a contractual agreement that I'm reviewing now that David provided me with them, with the locations. I'm reviewing that to make sure that those locations for our new contract are correct. And I'll bring that to you next week after I go through it and we make any revisions we need to that.
Their comment to us, to me, on us changing sites is that as long as we're providing a site and it's an adequate site, they view this as we're moving ahead, right?
Okay, I got you.
That we're upgrading sites and they're very much in favor of us upgrading sites.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Where's my hats?
I got some of it.
This yours? All right, we've got a couple of appraiser's office employees coming over in about 5 minutes to discuss the interim position, so we still got Darren's stuff too.
Darren, are you ready? How long will yours take?
3 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to it.
Darren Wilson, Planning and Zoning Director. I have a application for a replat for Christopher Boley at 24505 Quarry Road, Lacine, Kansas. Case number SD 23-01. Approval of a replat of BD Ranch 2 to add a 15-acre parcel and adjust the parcel line. This has been platted before into a 35.5 acre tract of land and a 10.01 tract of land. The request now is to split the,
Sorry.
didn't even see him walk in here. Can I add to my 3 minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Request now is to split the 3.5 acre tract into a 15 acre and an 18.02 acre and add 2 acres to the 10.01 tract. When the original lot split, it required the property to be platted. What the request now requires the properties to be replatted for the intended split. The added tract is for the purpose of Mr. Boley's daughter to build a house. Staff findings. The proposed use of the property is agricultural in nature and conforms to the neighborhood. There are other similar tracts of land near the proposed location. The proposed change will not detrimentally affect nearby properties. Property will not adversarially impact existing infrastructure. Proposed use conforms to the comprehensive plan. Staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of the replat of the BD Ranch 2, and it passed 8-0 with the Planning and Zoning Commission.
If it's your decision to approve this new plat, we have a motion to approve the plat and authorize the chairman to sign. There's no separate resolution.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seriously?
I got a pink pen too. Oh, it's been a long day.
Commissioner, just thinking ahead, you could want me to put in all these, discussions with your, wages, people.
I don't think there's,
Okay, and let me tell you kind of what I thought we might want to do today is possibly you guys would want to go in there and talk for a few minutes before you talk to the employees we had come over. But I went ahead and just blocked out an hour altogether and see where we go from there.
No, yeah, that's you. That's it.
all right. I'm gonna try to keep that. So are you gonna stay for our executive session with it?
If you don't need me, I'm not gonna sit down. I'll get on with other things.
Okay.
But that is up to you.
I can't pay you to sit here.
I don't either.
So we don't want to pay you to sit here.
My thought,
I'm just kidding. I don't, if we
as
don't,
greedy as that might be,
I don't think we, if I guess we need you, we'll call you.
So, like I say, I don't know if you think you'll need a whole hour or how you want to do that. Do you want to do an executive session for that long or?
30 minutes or something and see where we're at and spend it, didn't we?
That'll be fine with me.
And did you want to start with just us in there for a few minutes first and then call people in or?
Correct.
So what would that motion be for you?
Well, it'd just be for personnel executive session to
Okay.
protect privacy of the employee.
30 minutes.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for 30 minutes for personnel. That's my motion. And if we need more, we'll extend. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Motion moving second, all in favor?
Aye. You what?
We were just wondering when is the deadline for getting a vote on
there is no deadline because the time of the election you're talking about. It's, well, I think it's totally like, if it's going to be on a general election, it's got to be to you by.
For this year, the deadline is long since passed for this general election. We've already got ballots printed and ready to start sending them out.
They could do a special election.
There could be,
Essentially have to do a special election.
because you can't hold it with a regular election.
Right. So there really is no deadline.
Okay, so we need to talk to Mr.
Plan
I'll make a motion that we extend for 5 more minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Motion moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's no action. I kind of came in late to the party. Is there anything else that we need to discuss?
I thought we went over everything, but man, let's let
We've
it go.
been
Say,
through it.
before you were here,
I was trying to listen. I couldn't.
we just had one abatement this morning. We had kind of the normal reports. Agreed to let Randy use the house at the park for some training. John's working with Peppercorn on Queens Road.
Thinking that maybe they can move
Maybe move the road.
at a cheaper cost than what it was on like what was the other one? The Reagan's Road.
Yeah, the one down from it. I talked to him over the weekend. What about the airport? I heard, did Jessica say something?
Okay, yeah, she did not get any responses to the RFP for the airport. So I think she's going to try to set up a meeting with the Airport Advisory Committee and you guys to kind of talk about where we go from here. And also stated that the Garnett or Anderson County people had started getting the fuel out of there.
Yeah, I saw that.
We have after that, I think right before you got here, we got an agreement for putting some antennas on a water tower out here.
Yep.
1850 and 1095 where we can use some space on their tower. And then you came in right after that, so.
We talked about those funds from the previous week,
Oh, the
the highway?
exchange funds.
the highway exchange funds, and how we can tie those into the Parker Road project that we already did and we used those funds for last year.
Do those have to be a state highway or interconnecting highway or paved road or anything?
I don't believe so, but I mean, we can look at it and Sean was wondering, part of that was how to deposit those funds when we get them because they are going to be coming and we just kind of left that as Sean and I and Janet can work that out on where we're spending the money out of for the projects and make sure the funds go back into those funds and, you know, that.
And then we did get our bid on the high risk roads grant from Pfeffercorn on 1095
We're 62,000 for the engineering.
for the signage and the sight lines and
Yeah.
everything that way.
But they didn't take any action out of that session, Barb.
So the exchange fund, is it something
No
that we could
action.
utilize on that road? I mean, would that be?
We could, or we
Is that
could use it on the 62,000 that we have to pay out to the engineering for part of our matching funds on there.
Sounds like it's already all been discussed. And that, the exchange, that's the money that the state takes care of for us, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's federal money, comes through the state, and there's some fees that come out of it, but you know, we've got 87,000 coming, and it's money that we've already turned in enough stuff to get it, so we're gonna get that cash. It's just a matter of what we apply it to at this point.
Okay.
I know, we had mentioned the landfill again here a few weeks ago, or I did. Probably still nothing on that yet from that study.
We didn't have an update on it today.
All right.
You didn't mention it.
You guys got anything else?
I don't.
Then I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion moved, second, all in favor?
Aye.